South Carolina fell to her knees when this happened. This is one of the oldest African American churches. These 12 people were amazing people. They loved their church, they loved their family, they loved their community. And here is this guy that comes out with his manifesto holding the Confederate flag and had just hijacked everything that people thought of. And we don't have hateful people in South Carolina. There's always the small minority that's always going to be there. But, people saw it as service and sacrifice and heritage. But once he did that, there was no way to overcome it. And the national media came in droves. They wanted to define what happened. They wanted to make this about racism. They wanted to make it about gun control. They wanted to make it about death penalty.
Service, heritage, and sacrifice. That's what Nikki Haley feels the Confederate flag represents. And that's what she feels other people saw it representing before the Dylann Roof incident. She said as much in her recent interview with Glenn Beck. But here's the thing. She's 100% wrong. The Confederate flag has never represented service, heritage, and sacrifice. Or if it has represented those values, it represented those values in a manner that underpinned white supremacy, underpinned white nationalism, underpinned slavery, underpinned inequality of African Americans, and on and on and on. It was about the service, heritage, and sacrifice of a slave-owning people revolting against their current country in an effort to preserve the institution of slavery. And this sort of ties into those arguments a lot of Southern conservatives will make, which is that, the war was not really about slavery. The Civil War was about states' rights or some other particular issue. But it was fundamentally about slavery. Indeed, a lot of the early conflicts in the United States, even before the Civil War, were about slavery. And the Confederate flag, from the very first time the very first one was stitched, always represented that institution, the defense of the institution, the love of that institution, the belief that that institution was morally, religiously, economically just and necessary. And even after the Civil War, where of course the South lost and, slavery was abolished, that flag persisted not as a remembrance to the veterans of that war, as a remembrance of the hatred of that regime. It's actually stood as a tool to remember the glorious cause that the South fought for and lost, aka their glorious defense of white supremacy, white nationalism, and slavery. And ever since, the flag has represented a romantic notion back to those days where, formal white supremacy was codified in the South. And my goodness, can't we get back to that? That's what that flag means. That's what that flag meant during segregation. That's what that flag still means to this day. It's never been about a positive, inclusive message. Never, ever, ever. And what we're seeing in recent years with the rise of a kind of new alt-right that has taken various actions, many of them nonviolent, but many of them violent, in an effort to reassert a kind of form of white nationalism and white supremacy, aka what Dylann Roof did, many people are being forced to reckon with the fact that the flag has always been about what people are making it about right now, which is about, white nationalism, the superiority of some groups over others, the pining for a time where, codified inequalities existed in formal legal terms. And so a lot of people who are Southern conservatives, a lot of these types of folks who always knew the flag never really represented a, multicultural, tolerant, welcoming South, but sort of knew that you could be polite about the racism that surrounds and really, intertwines with the Confederate flag, now have no option there anymore. It's now too clear to the vast majority of people what that flag has always represented. It's too much in the open now. So Nikki Haley here, she's not really lamenting the fact that the flag's reputation has been tarnished. She's not really, in a genuine sense, sad that this glorious banner can no longer be waved proudly by the good old boys and girls of the South. She's not really that sad about that anymore. She's sad that it can no longer be used as a crypto propagandistic tool against black people, against progressives, against all those fighting for a just and tolerant society. The flag has lost that crypto value because of the actions we've seen in recent years, because of the people who have adopted that flag in recent years and the openness with which they speak about that flag's historical value. That's the problem for Nikki Haley. So at the end of the day, Nikki Haley trying to defend this flag despite what we know historically and contemporarily is unacceptable. What she is doing is not just defending a symbol, but she's openly defending the South's racist and exclusionary legacy and bringing it forward to today. She should not be allowed to get away with this, and we should critique her and those like her at every step.